Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Star Citizen Alpha 3.11, referred to the High Impact release, went live on October 8th, 2020. And we had a bit of a post-mortem from Cloud Imperium, looking what was added, what's being worked on now for the near future, and some dev feedback on the most recent Star Citizen major release. So let's start with some environment stuff. Cargo deck locations were added to space stations. The idea here is that some of the more major space stations located around planets would be a bit more than just rest stops, and you might have some other stations as well, not just these planetary stations, but some of the other rest stops might also have these features. And basically they wanted them to have their own dedicated services like cargo. This is mostly visual at the moment, but they want a lot of gameplay and interactivity there, from missions to trade to buying cargo, ship gear to storage management, cargo management. That gameplay is coming in the future. They relaxed armistice zones, allowing combat in them and around stations and nearby. So they've added destructible station defenses and are preparing for the Idris coming to 3.12 that will help defend space stations. Players were stealing sentry turrets that are around these space stations in the PTU as well, moving them around. They were not supposed to do that. They fixed that relatively quickly, made them self-destruct. The crime stats of all players in an area now cause waves of security to spawn there, with those waves being more powerful based on the combined criminal level of the crime stats in that area. So this still needs a bit of tweaking, and the current response for larger groups of players is not really strong enough. They will develop the system further, and they're going to take into account what player ships are there that they're using, the aggression shown. And they also want players to struggle when they try and take down an Idris in 3.12 when they're defending a station there. So I'm very much looking forward to testing that out. They will be rolling out the relaxed armistice zones to outposts and Grim Hex, but these stations will have their own laws and jurisdictions, with defences responding to crimes committed within their operating range. Luke Presley said, moving forward, we also plan to relax the arbitrary limitations found in interiors. So this will be FPS gameplay, basically, again starting at the rest stops. We are already well underway with a spawn closet system that will allow us to spawn the guards necessary to police an area. As well as this, we are working on a security network that will know whether players have the right to be in certain areas and enable cameras, turrets and guards to respond to trespassers, those with crime stats, or those in the process of committing crimes. Cloud Imperium have continued to improve their planetary tech. This includes new painting brush tools. They've revamped the UI and merged the ground layer and object presets to make it even faster to paint planets. Utilizing the new planetary painting tools, the environment art team went through all the planets and moons in the Stanton system and repainted the ground surfaces and object presets. This also future-proofs a lot of their existing locations, and they can take advantage of this new tech. Cloud Imperium have said, for this first quarter, we have been able to keep momentum in updating the planets and moons in the Stanton system with the latest tools and tech we're using to build out the Pyro system, new height maps, updated geology packs, shader improvements, etc. We learnt recently that Cloud Imperium as well are opening a new studio in Montreal that Turbulent are going to be running, basically, but it is effectively a whole new Cloud Imperium Star Citizen studio, and it appears to be focusing on star system and planet building, so the gameplay area. So these tools are going to make that endeavor much better and easier. Some other little bits: they've improved water and added buoyancy. Atmospheric and volumetric cloud rendering tech has been further developed. Objects on clients should now stay streamed for noticeably larger distances. Ian Leyland, Star Citizen's art director, had this to say: with the introduction of scanned data for our services, we saw a substantial leak in quality. However, for some of the global painting passes, they're not as detailed and evolved as we would have liked. This is mainly due to time restraints in the quarter. Some of the geology servicing with the new libraries could be more appropriate to the biomes and regions as well. For cargo decks, we should have foreseen the disconnect between the interior and exterior when separating out the commercial decks. To improve the experience and to help give context to the player, we would like the transit network to be physicalized in the future. This will provide visibility out from the transit cab to the exterior of the station as it moves towards its destination. Let's have a look at some of the more core gameplay stuff. The first iteration of external inventories was added in 3.11 with the rock, so players could move items from that vehicle and between their backpacks. You could move items between the different inventory space of different armor pieces and pockets as well. In the future with iCache, this is going to expand to looting bodies, containers, and more. They are continuing to develop the UI for usability and game function with that inventory system. They are continuing to add more force reactions to gameplay. At the moment, when you get hit or blown by wind or whatever, you'll twitch or flinch. High impact wise, if you get hit by a grenade or with enough force, you'll get knocked over. And they're currently working on the addition of more medium style impacts, so staggers, where you partially lose control of your movement in certain situations. In hindsight as well, they mentioned that potentially designing these reactions and a bit more around gravity and gravity generators might have been a cleaner implementation option, but that was sort of like hindsight, as I said. Grenades and other items being thrown is now much better, with an over and underarm choice of being thrown, as well as the AR arc. So this augmented reality little arc will show you where your grenade's being thrown or whatever. You'll have to wear a helmet to see that, and in the future, those AR arcs will only be seen with certain types of combat visor, so certain choices of helmets will basically go, oh, I can see the arc from these grenades, or do I want more detailed sort of stats on survivability and the temperature and that sort of thing. So there's going to be lots of different loadouts and choices there. They added the bearing grenade launcher and bearing BR2 shotgun. They acknowledge that the grenade launcher is still very overpowered in the game currently. In the future, grenade ammo will be cumbersome, obviously, because we'll have a physicalized inventory system, so you won't be able to carry all of the grenade ammo in the world, and it's going to be relatively expensive, and it will potentially damage the gear and the value of things that you hit with it. So if you launch a load of grenades into a room, well, if you wanted to loot the stuff in there, that might not be ideal. So less than lethal might be the best option if you want to loot someone. I suppose that might score you the most money. Vehicle feature-wise, they added the 100 series of ships. They are starter ships basically for new players, but I suspect some people will use them as shuttles. Maybe they'll have other use in the future. Missiles and countermeasures saw some temporary but pretty major changes and updates. So the issues prior to 3.11 were countermeasures would act only on IR missiles if they were flares, and EM missiles if they were chaff. Countermeasures were highly ineffective and sometimes just wouldn't work, and there were no real countermeasures to spoof the CS or cross-section missiles. And firing missiles was extremely easy, defending against missiles was extremely hard. Basically spam, missile spam everywhere. So firstly, they sort of focused on two ways that countermeasures could affect missiles, and that was either creating a strong signal so that missiles would go towards that, or dampening all signatures in an area. So flares will now create a strong signal and act on all missile types, and chaff would be turned into a noise field, dampening all signatures in an area. That means you have significantly more effective countermeasures. Obviously, they fixed some of the problems with them as well. They weren't drawing from proper data and stuff like that. So also, we have the other missile updates, and this also means that spamming can't occur. Each vehicle is only allowed a maximum of 4 locks at a time. Only one missile can launch per rack at a time. Only one missile type IR, EM, and CS can launch at a time. Missiles lose lock outside of their locking angle. They also introduced minimum and maximum lock ranges as well. This has missiles used much more conservatively and in much more reasonable situations, and stretched out the missile gameplay out of gun range, allowing missile-focused ships to loiter at the edge of combat as designed when dedicated gunfighters would try to get closer. These are more temporary changes though, until the missile operator mode is ready in 2021, and it is supposed to be early 2021, which will change the behavior again and or remove certain aspects when it's implemented. However, the direction they are going with its missiles is certainly better than we had before with Gigaspam, but it is, as I said, a temporary measure. Cloud Imperium also said the overall goal we want to achieve with the missile gameplay loop is to make both employing missiles and defending against missiles deeper and more rewarding. With its own slot in the combat environment, missiles are not supposed to be an alternative to guns, but tactical weapons, and the use of them should be a conscious decision with consequences. We also want to give special missile boats like the Talon Shrike or the Freelancer Miss an edge when it comes to employing ordnance for the same reason. Those ships will excel in offensive missile gameplay, though have obvious drawbacks in other categories, so there will be more iterations on countermeasures and missile gameplay in the next couple of releases. For the time being though, we are quite happy that the missile gameplay experience stepped away from the frustrations of previous releases. Alright, round this all off with a quote from Richard Tyree, who is the core gameplay director at Cloud Imperium. So everyone is trying to deliver the best features, content and tech they can to the highest possible quality, and sometimes the stars don't align when it comes to priorities. In this case, it is purely on my shoulders due to a lack of communication. As developers, we don't always get it right when we're in the thick of things, but hopefully this gives you some insight into our processes and how we are always giving it 100% to try and create the best experiences for you to enjoy. And that's it for the Star Citizen Alpha 3.11 post-mortem and the summary of that. Some of those updates for Alpha 3.11 have been absolutely fantastic, but there's still a huge amount more to get into the game. Star Citizen's development is very slow, it's hard to argue that, but they are making improvements with every major patch, and I am looking forward to the next one. But what do you think? What did you think of Alpha 3.11? Did it fix a load of bugs that you had for the game and problems? Do you think that PvP is now much more competitive with the missile changes? Are you enjoying the changes around armistice zones and the fact you can now actually fight around them? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Each month we have a ship giveaway. For November, we are giving away a Mercury Star Runner again. This highly anticipated multi-role ship is great for small to medium-sized crews that want to do a bit of everything, whether that be cargo running, data running, missions, combat, smuggling, all that sort of jazz. All you've got to do to be in for a chance of winning one is comment on any of my videos made for November, including this one. More details down below. What am I shilling for today, I hear you ask? Do you hate it when people steal all of your money and your house over the internet? I know I do. NordVPN may have been invented by wizards to help protect your personal data from the prying eyes of the dark web, a sinister cabal of technomancers that grow in power the more they know about your browsing habits. The true story of NordVPN's origins are unknown and lost to the ages, and without using facts, no one really knows how it provides more accessibility to otherwise censored websites or a safer security experience for all that use it. All I know is that it does, and that when you sign up to it, the power level of my bank account grows, and I use it, and maybe you should too.